We are only weeks away from the start of the college basketball season. Welcome, everybody, to the Unofficial WCC Hoops podcast. I'm Zach Farmer. Again, we are only a few weeks away, so we're starting to get down into the nitty gritty of starting to look at teams more in depth, as well as we'll kind of go over some news that's come out over the course of the last few weeks. And we're going to get right into it. We do have Anthony Passarelli, the Santa Clara play-by-play man. He'll be on with me in a little bit. But first, let's kind of talk about some of the big news out of the NBA, which does impact college basketball. And that being that the NBA and the Players Association are in their CBA negotiations, and one of the things that looks like is going to come to fruition is a lowering of the eligibility from 19 to 18 for the NBA draft. And this could potentially take effect as early as 2024. So obviously, like, this is going to impact college basketball in a number of ways. There have been a few changes the NBA has made that's impacting college basketball already. Changes to the G League have already kind of made that an option for kids coming right out of high school. And now this is going to be another one where now we will see high school students will have the opportunity to go right out of high school rather than having to come to college. And so this is kind of this is reverting back to where we were prior to 2004, 2005. And I don't think it changes a whole lot for the WCC. Now you're going to start to see kind of like that trickle down effect without these one and dones. The Power Five schools are going to kind of go down to their next tier list, and so these are going to be guys who are not finished products, guys who are not like going to be high draft picks or whatnot. So you're seeing more and more guys actually go be multi-year players at the college level, because that's kind of what their development track is going to show. And I think that's what we're going to see more and more. So this actually might be, to an extent, we're going to get to know more of the guys in college basketball, maybe a little better, because there'll be fewer of these one and done players because they'll go straight to the NBA or even have the opportunity to go to the G League. And again, so the trickle down effect for the WCC, I don't think it's a huge impact, because if you look around the conference, even in this past year, where you have the Chet Holmgrens and Andrew Nembhards, and you have Jalen Williams going number 12. Jalen Williams is a 3-year guy, so that wasn't probably going to change much for him. Andrew Nembhard, 5th-year senior, wasn't going to change for him. Now, a guy like Chet Holmgren, he's probably the one outlier in the WCC circles that would have gone probably last year. Same goes for Jalen Suggs a year ago. So I don't think it's going to impact a whole lot. Again, like Gonzaga, you look up and down even Gonzaga's roster. This is a team that has a lot of veteran players on it. The Drew Timmies, Julian Strothers, Rasheer Bolton. Like they're built with high level talent who sticks around. And so like I think that it will not impact a lot of the WCC programs really at all. The only thing that we could see is that maybe like as this transition starts to happen, some of those guys that might have gone to like a St. Mary's or a USF maybe get picked up by a program that's maybe a slight tier higher than them. So that might be the only difference. But then again, you're also looking at recruiting circles, who recruits where and whatnot, program style, that sort of thing. So maybe there isn't a whole lot of difference. So while I think this is a really good step, I think this was the right move to kind of go forward for the NBA. It makes it so that the kids who are ready to play in the NBA can play in the NBA right away. And don't have to wait for this 1 year extra in college. And I know, like, even at the beginning of when this happened, like everyone was saying like, oh, the one and done would be a farce or whatnot. And so I get it of why there was that negative impact, but we also got to see some great players come into college basketball, even if it was for a year. Kevin Durant, I think, was like one of the very first ones that kind of went through that mode. Carmelo Anthony, I think, was another one of them. But I don't think it's going to impact the college game really all that much. There's some speculation of like, oh, it's going to hurt the game, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't think that's going to happen. College basketball is not going to be impacted at all. In fact, like this actually might make it easier to start to follow more players because they'll be sticking around for a little bit longer, even on the higher levels. And speaking of reformatting and everything else, we also got a little bit of news or reporting from CBS Sports a few weeks back about this potential reformatting of the NCAA tournament. So necessarily it wasn't news a couple of weeks ago, but CBS News put out their candid coaches poll and asked coaches what they thought about the NCAA tournament, whether it should stay as is or to a 68 team all at large format. And I'm glad to say that the coaches are right there overwhelmingly with most of the college basketball watching world. 97% say to stay as is. And I could not agree more. All of this comes out because earlier in the offseason, CBS Sports got this report. So I'm going to quote from the report on CBSSports.com. Earlier this offseason, sources told CBS Sports that SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey had been vocal in meetings with major college sports stakeholders over his willingness to consider changing the NCAA tournament. This was confirmed in August when Sankey went on the record, albeit with language that was equal parts understated and vague, with Sports Illustrated. Quote, "Just take a fresh look at all of it," Sankey told SI. "As we think collectively, everyone goes to the corner and says, I have to hang on to what's mine. But how do we contribute and build it better together?" So he's also a member of and he's a co-chair of the Division I Transformation Committee, which is kind of this group that's looking to kind of restructure and look at potential ways to enhance the NCAA experience in general, and not specifically tournaments or whatnot, but the tournament is obviously one of the things that he wants to look at. And this is something that I think the vast majority of college basketball fans are like, leave the tournament alone. It is the one thing I think that most everyone agrees on is near perfect. The at-large system, while it does have flaws of who they select and how they select and that sort of thing, and there'll always be those conversations about who gets left out. The auto bid and those Cinderella stories is what makes March Madness as special as it is. If you don't have those, I'm going completely blank between auto bid and at large. If you don't have those auto bids, you don't get the St. Peter's. You don't get the George Masons of past. You don't get the VCUs. You don't get the VCU. Actually, they were an at large. I take that back. Not VCU. But you don't get these incredible stories, and then these schools who then get to relive these moments for generations. Because when you do have a team who wasn't expected to be there and to do what they do, it's a huge impact on the school, the alums, the students, the faculty, the entire university. It really does mean something for a lot of these schools. And it's going to mean more for the St. Peter's to do what they did than it was going to be if, say, it was Stanford instead. I don't want to see, like, it would have felt less and almost hollow if it was Stanford who had actually pulled these same upsets. Yes, it would be shocking. It would have been exciting. And maybe I'm picking on Stanford a little bit here, but it's like, you kind of get the idea. It's like, they're still a Power 5 school. They're supposed to be good to an extent, where the St. Peter's can't come out of nowhere and shock the world and become the darling of the NCAA tournament. There's no reason to mess with that. There's no reason to think that this needs to be tweaked. If anything that needs to be tweaked, and it is constantly being tweaked, is how we select those at-large bids, how we select those teams. And I think that's always going to be the question, and we'll continue to argue forever about who was snubbed, who wasn't, who doesn't belong there, who did belong there. But the one thing I think that everyone agrees on is that, again, 97% of the coaches agree, and I think it's about the same for everybody else, is that this tournament is great because of the unexpected stories that can happen to it. The first 2 weeks of the NCAA tournament are maybe the most exciting events in all of sports on a yearly basis. So let's leave it alone. Let's keep it as it is. The NCAA tournament is about as perfect a sporting event as you can have. And so now we'll transition to a team that, I mean, if they were fully healthy all of last year, maybe they were an NCAA tournament team, Santa Clara. And you look at just what they were able to accomplish last year. This was a team that went 21-12, third in the WCC, highest they've been in a very long time. They unseat BYU. They leapfrog USF. Get to the NIT for the first time also in quite a while. They were a top 80 KenPom team and also a top 80 net team. Now, going into this year, it's going to be a little bit of a change, actually a big change, because they do lose 3 starters. They lose Joseph Brankic, they lose PJ Pipes, and of course they lose Jalen Williams. And while you can start to try to see like how do you fill in Brankic in his spot, how do you fill in what Pipes was able to do, you're not going to replace a Jalen Williams that easily. So as you look at what's then coming back, you have Keyshawn Justice, very good player. You have Jordan Williams, very good player, who was coming off the bench last year. Jaden Bediako, who I think was really starting to kind of hit his stride toward the end of last year. Parker Brown, who's going to give you solid minutes. And then you have some of the new guys coming in. So like the 2 big key additions are going to be Carlos Marshall Jr. and Brandon Pajemski, the Illinois transfer. And Pajemski was pretty impressive over their European tour. He averaged like 18 a game. This was a guy who scored like 35 a game in high school, his senior season. So this they have some pieces. The cupboard is not bare for Santa Clara. Where they're going to finish, I think I still have them closer to the back end, but we'll see. And again, the Santa Clara team has talent. I think Herb Sendek's done a really good job with them. But let's hear from someone who knows this team a little bit better, who's got to see them on a game in, game out basis. And we will bring in Anthony Passarelli to kind of give us kind of the scoop on Santa Clara and where they are right now. All right, so we'll bring on Anthony Passarelli, the voice of Santa Clara men's basketball. And as we're getting close to WC season, we're getting excited. Anthony, how's summer been for you, and how excited are you to kind of get going in basketball season again?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Zach. I appreciate it. And a chance I get to talk about Santa Clara basketball. I love to do it, and I'm excited. I mean, I'm always excited this time of year. It's, we're just the non-conference is right around the corner. They do a couple of closed door exhibitions, and so those are coming up. Here we are in September, so it's follow social media, and you know how many days are left till the first non-conference game. So summer's been great, but I'm definitely looking forward to getting the season started.
So let's wind the clock back to last season, because this was like one of the more exciting Santa Clara seasons we've had in quite a while. And between like getting the NIT berth, just seeing the growth of Jalen Williams, just kind of like it, because it seemed like everything started to click for this team last year. Take me through just like what it was like being around that team, and when did it seem like, oh, this is a team that's going to be special?
Well, first of all, I mean, the staff, Herb and the staff are fantastic. So it's always great to be around the team. We got an idea about what this team could do right off the bat. So they started the season 5-0. They beat Stanford by 15, 16 points. Nevada, a team that had come in a few years prior with Eric Musselman as a head coach and beaten the Broncos pretty well at Levy Center on the home floor, beat Nevada by over 20 points. And then went ahead and beat up on TCU at a holiday tournament, Thanksgiving in Southern California,